Swallowing is so easy, but it's actually a very complicated physiological action. It requires a coordinated effort of more than 30 muscle groups, and once it starts, you can't stop it at will. The action of chewing our food and swallowing is just the beginning of the digestion process. Hello friends, it's Lauren. You know, it's interesting that only part of digestion occurs in the stomach. The rest occurs in the mouth and in the intestines. The foods we eat all contain carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and each has its order and place in digestion. Did you know your body was so smart? Well, God is smart, and He designed our bodies to digest carbohydrates beginning in the mouth with the saliva and continue in the stomach. Protein digestion begins in the stomach and continues in the intestines. Fat is largely digested in the intestines. The body cannot digest fats unless they are emulsified by the intestinal juices, similar to how grease on your hands cannot be removed until it's emulsified with soap and hot water. Do you think that the juices in our stomach are important? Absolutely, because the food we eat needs to be broken down and assimilated to meet our nutritional needs. So what acts as an enemy to our digestive juices? Well, it's drinking fluids while eating a meal. Yes, that's right. Eating and drinking with a meal dilutes the digestive juices and will slow down digestion. It's best to drink fluid about 2 hours after a meal. And it's best to stop taking in fluids about half an hour prior to eating a meal. You see, we need to allow our body's hydrochloric acid, the digestive juices, to do its job well. The hydrochloric acid is so potent that it can eat through a car door. We need this powerful acid to break down our food. Now you might be thinking, well, that's just so hard. I'm so used to drinking with every meal. Well, I know. I drank with my meals all my life until I learned that the digestive juices can't work to help me if I'm diluting them. And I said to myself, well, I want to have good digestion because I know that that plays a major role in my overall health. Friends, I overcame drinking with my meals. I went to a restaurant a few weeks ago and the waitress looked at me kind of funny when I said that I didn't want anything to drink. You see, it's habit. But habits can be broken and new behaviors can be implemented. And so it was for me about 10 years ago when I stopped drinking fluids at mealtime. It's ingrained in me to not even consider fluids while I eat because I've already taken care of my fluid needs between meals. A whole cascade of problems can start with us drinking fluids at mealtime. So how does digestion slow down in this process? Fluid and food digest at different rates. One is liquid, the other is solid. Our body has to deal with that combination, and so there is delay in digestion, which will cause the food to putrefy and ferment. And do you see the vicious cycle each time we sit down to a meal, day after day, month after month, year after year? Dr. Marvin Randall states that gut problems like candida, overgrowth, and H. pylori can result from this habit. You might say, well, my food is just too dry. I need to swallow water while I eat. Well, what do you think that saliva is good for, friends? When you take a bite of food, move it around while you chew it so that it can properly mix with saliva before swallowing. Make the food like applesauce consistency before swallowing it. This is an invaluable tip to fight against indigestion. Another tip is to eat foods that have natural amounts of fluid in them with your meal. Lettuce, leafy greens, raw veggies like tomatoes, cucumbers, radishes, etc. They all contain high amounts of water. So enjoy these foods at your mealtime or at the beginning of your mealtime. And keep in mind that your cooked foods are less hydrated. And of course, I would like to share with you one other tip to help digestion. And this is especially for you bread eaters out there, especially those who bake their own bread using yeast. A cause of indigestion is eating yeast bread, which is not 2 to 3 days old. Joanne Raker, in her vegetarian cookbook called Of These Ye May Freely Eat, states on page 9, while bread dough is rising and baking, there are some volatile substances left in the bread after the fermentation process of the yeast has taken place. These substances evaporate in 2 to 3 days. Yeast bread is more digestible after this waiting period. The conditioning of the bread also improves during this time, making the bread easier to cut. It can be toasted or reheated just before serving. One lady I know personally said that her troublesome gut issues were due to years' worth of eating yeast bread before it was the right time. She now knows that it's best to wait the 2 to 3 days before eating the yeast bread because it's more digestible at that time. Her stomach is doing so much better now. Sometimes we just don't know that we're harming ourselves, but I'm so glad that information is power, and that in Psalm 32 verse 8, God says, "I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye." Friends, God cares about our health. Jesus did as much healing as he did preaching, and God is saying that he will help you. Yes, even with your health issues. Let's take him at his word today while we give ourselves over to him to be instructed. Let's make ourselves students of the Holy Ghost. Friends, if you found this video to be informative and helpful, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and share with someone else. We are praying for you. God bless and goodbye.